Hello and welcome to the infant feeding Facebook live session today. I'm on level 7 on the Spires in one of the side rooms they have up there. I'm hoping I'm going to get lots of questions because, as you can see, I'm on my own this week. Naomi's on leave. She's having a nice week away. Sadly, the weather's not great for her, so hopefully she's finding lots to do. Looking forward to seeing some people popping up. I can see a few numbers coming up. And lovely, some faces coming up too. Nice to think I'm not just talking to myself. It's great to see them, those numbers coming up. Have a think about those questions you want to ask. Remember, they can't be too silly. We're happy to answer anything to do with feeding. So just a reminder, we do it every week. This is about feeding, anything to do with feeding and early days. It's not about visiting and general midwifery things. I can take a stab at answering some of those questions, but I'm probably not the most up to date to be able to do that. So this is a specific feeding session. We can talk about feeding and sleep and early days and introducing solid foods and things you can do to prepare in the antenatal period and where to get help. There's been a lot of people looking for help recently. It's been a real baby boom going on here. You maybe have had your baby and been on level 5 and seen how busy we are, and we seem to be, I'm sure it's to do with the lockdown in December. And I think that the maths work that a lot of you ended up having babies after that lockdown started in December, but we seem to be having a real baby boom. And it's interesting because that often happens in September, but we seem to be a bit early this year. But I've met lots and lots of lovely mums, and many doing really well and a few needing a bit more support. And that's what this is about. It's trying to give you the information to get you off to a really good start and help you in those early days that can be really challenging with breastfeeding. I keep telling mums, any mum who's seen me recently will know that I've said this, I often say it to mums. The Association of Breastfeeding Mothers had a promotion, sort of like a campaign a few years ago, and it was, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's worth it. And I've met some fab mums in clinic this morning. I've had 4 mums through clinic this morning, and many of them are finding it hard, and there've been tears and they found it really difficult, but the resolution, the determination from them to carry on is fantastic, because they know it's worth it, because it's so good. And it's remembering that it's really good for you as well, you as the mother, you as the woman. Breastfeeding is not just for the baby, it is for you too. It's a physiological norm. And what we're there, when you are breastfeeding your baby, you're giving yourself an estrogen holiday. You're giving yourself an opportunity to have a break, and that protects you from 2 types of cancer: your breast cancer and your cervical cancer. It protects your cardiac health. So the women who have breastfed their babies are found to have better cardiac health. It's protecting you from obesity, from diabetes. So, and osteoporosis. There are so many things that are worth doing it, not just for your baby, but for you too. So I think I'm just saying to you all that, if you are struggling, try and access the help. And I know that we are a bit short on the ground and getting help out there for you, but we'll move heaven and earth to help as best we can. But to remember, it is worth it, and it's, just keep going as best you can. This week is World Breastfeeding Awareness Week. And the hospital's done some promotional stuff about breastfeeding and COVID, and I was asked to go and do a little video the other day, which is up on the hospital webpage, the Facebook page. It's always daunting. I find these much easier, actually. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I've got 2 cameras in my face. I feel like I'm just talking to you mums, which makes it a lot easier. But anyway, I did a video, again, and a bit like our videos that are on Facebook about positioning attachment. It's not brilliant, but it gets the message across. So it's just remembering that if any of you out there, should you go on to develop COVID while you're breastfeeding, keep going. If you end up in hospital, we will do our best to support you, you are protecting your baby through breastfeeding as well. So don't stop breastfeeding if that's what happens to you. And an appeal as well, if you haven't had the vaccine, and there's no reason why you shouldn't, to consider having the vaccine, whether you're pregnant or you're now, postnatal, you've had your baby, consider having the vaccine, because it is protection. And if you're antenatal, it will reduce the risks of you ending up very unwell in the 3rd trimester. Brenda Kelly has done some fantastic videos. They're available on the Facebook page as well, on the hospital webpage, about, you know, giving really good information about having the COVID vaccine in pregnancy. And she also refers to, you know, when mums are breastfeeding. So it is the best protection you can have for you and your baby is to have the vaccine. So think seriously, if you haven't had it already, to have it. I think there's been a real push in this World Breastfeeding Awareness Week because of, you know, the cases with many of you being vulnerable. The messages were so mixed in the beginning about whether you should or you shouldn't have the vaccine, and now, you know, I think the message is very clearly, please have it unless there's a really good reason not to. So if you're dithering, have a chat with your midwife, have a chat with your GP, contact someone from, you know, within the hospital, chat it through, and you know, make an informed decision, because it will protect you and your baby in the long run. I can see a few questions coming up, so I'll have a quick look and see what they are. I think a couple of our regulars. Let's see if I can get it on my laptop. I always have this problem when I'm on my own. It's difficult because with the tech, when I've got Naomi, it works really well. Oh, there we go. Let me have a quick peek. We've got two of our lovelies here. We've got Charlotte, who's saying, hi hun, hope you're well. I hope you're feeling all right, Charlotte. I don't know how many weeks you are now, but I know you're expecting that second baby, and I hope you're feeling okay, and that Alicia's allowing you to rest, because it's, you know, you get tired when you're pregnant, as any of you will know. Imi's on here, Imi with her lovely Leo. Hi Alex, hope you're well. Been feeding Leo for a year next week, his first birthday. We've made it. Thank you for all your help. Well, Imi, it's been absolutely fabulous. And one of the things we really love is to find out how you've all got on. So this has been fabulous. We've really enjoyed doing Facebook Live because it's given us that continuity that we've been able to see what's happening. And sometimes you might send us a photograph, which we've had. I've had a few of Leo over the months, and had some great ones of Leo when he was going on to Solid Foods, covered in food, looking absolutely gorgeous. So, and I think you have to, you know, look at that, Imi, and go, well done. You know, and you are one case in point. It was not easy in the beginning, you know, it was hard work, and here you are a year on and you've fed him all that time, and it's absolutely brilliant. Well done you, and you know, well done to any of you that are in that situation. It's fabulous. Any breast milk your baby gets is beneficial. And, you know, many of our mums aren't able to exclusively breastfeed, and for one reason or another have to give a top up, whether that, you know, whether they've been lucky enough to be in hospital and have some of our donated, or whether they are giving formula. But every little bit of breast milk your baby gets, no matter what proportion of their daily intake it is worth giving. It is absolutely unique. I know I say this every time. Your milk is totally tailor-made for your baby. It's bespoke. It's made with every antibody you've ever had in your life given to your baby. It's your baby's first vaccine. And you know, if you're one of those mums who's expressing colostrum in those early days, and you're looking at these tiny weeny amounts, and we hold up that syringe every week, we hold up these 1 ml, think 1 ml syringes. This is a 1 ml syringe, it's absolutely tiny. And some mums might be lucky if they get 0.1 or 0.2. And just remember that that is still fantastic. Colostrum is a food in concentrate. It is golden syrup. You cannot compare it to other foods. You cannot compare it to donated, to formula, to mature milk. This is absolutely incredible stuff for your baby. It's your baby's first vaccine. So you just bear that in mind. You know, it can be tough, but it's well worth it. Keep going. Having a look down and see what else we've got. So that was Imi, congratulations, and happy birthday to Leo for next week. Charlotte said, I can't believe Alicia will be 15 months tomorrow. That's gone so quick. And you're going to have another one, Charlotte. How exciting. Oh, do send a picture. You can send a picture to us. We'd love to see a picture of Charlotte, of you and Alicia. That'd be lovely. Olivia has said, hi Alex. Her little girl is 13 weeks today. I'm planning to go back to doing some work in September, but struggling to be consistent with expressing to freeze enough for when I'll be away. Do you have any tips? I think my normal thing is to suggest that you do it first thing in the morning. Most mothers, for some unknown reason, have more milk than they need in the morning. It's interesting, the world over, these rhythms are different. So you might go to another part of the world and actually they find they have more in the evening. What we find, certainly in the Western world, is that mothers tend to have more than they need in the morning, despite the fact they've been up feeding all night. So Do your early feed, Olivia, do that morning feed, and then pump afterwards. That will be your best time. That will be the time when you get the most milk. And if you get into the habit of that, you'll be able to stash quite a bit away. And remember, when you're pumping, we always say to mums, you sort of look at the baby, think about the baby, get that oxytocin going. Then, depending on what you're using, if you're using a single pump on one side till you get no more, pump on the other till you get no more, go back to the first, back to the second, back to the first, back to the second. So you're getting 3 pump sessions on each breast every time you do it. If you've got a double pump, 2 kits on, hold them between your fingers. No, you really want to be holding them between your fingers like this, so not holding the bottles. That allows you to hold the pump kit onto the breast, so you've got your fingers holding it nice and securely, you've got your fingers under the breast, your thumb on top, and that allows you to do massaging at the same time as pumping. You pump again while you see milk. I don't want to, we often hear people saying to me, I was told 15 minutes, I was told 20 minutes. And what we always say to people is be guided by the flow and not the clock. Don't look at the time, look at what's coming. Look in here and see the milk's dripping. Don't worry too much about what's going on here. If that milk's dripping, you keep going. If that milk stopped or really slowing, have a break, 30 seconds, enough time to have a quick drink, to stretch your arms, and then go again. If you're double pumping, the other thing you can do is make yourself a little pumping bra. So you could cut up an old bra, cut a couple of holes in and fit the kits through it so it holds it on. And what that allows you to do is be really hands-on with the pumping. So you get your hands all over the breast. So you've already got your hand that's anchoring the pump kit on, and you've got your other hand, and you want to be doing nice big compressions, really nice big ones. Work your way around the breast. Remember, your breast tissue goes right up to your collarbone and into your armpit. So get your hand right back against the chest wall so you're in and hold. And you can change your hand around, whichever way works for you to work the breasts. So okay, just resume, think about pumping first thing in the morning. That's when most mothers in the UK tend to have the most milk, after the first feed. Pumping after each first feed in the morning will request that supply, and you'll start to get that milk, and it should go up a little bit. Pumping, if a single pump, doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, being guided by the flow. And if you're doing a double pump, again guided by the flow, it's on and watching for the milk. When it starts to slow or stop, have a quick break, start again. When it slows or stops, have a quick break, go again, and that'll be for 3 sessions on each breast. So that will hopefully get you going, and then hopefully that will put you a bit of milk in your freezer. The other thing to bear in mind, Olivia, you haven't mentioned if your baby's already taking a bottle. So thinking about, sometimes babies that are breastfed are a bit reluctant to take a bottle. So, September's looming, maybe think about starting to get your baby used to the idea of a bottle. So you could think about, you see if someone else can help. And I noticed it says see more on there. Is it all on there? I hope you're answering the whole question, because it says see more on the computer, on the camera, but not on here. So I'm hoping I answered all your question. I haven't missed anything. If I've missed anything, tell me. But what I was saying about the bottle feeding is that some babies, having been breastfed, and she's been breastfed for 13 weeks, can be a bit reluctant to take a bottle, and particularly from you. So think about maybe partner doing it, someone, maybe if you've got a parent around that can do it, and doing that, and thinking about how you're doing it or how they're doing it. We've got a video on YouTube. We've got this series of 7 videos, and one of them is giving a bottle, that we talk about responsive bottle feeding, so that's worth having a look at. So the way you do it, put my laptop down, grab one of my babies. So the way that you do it is you want to have your baby in nice and close and upright, and you're going to brush your baby's lips for a gape. So you're going to tell them they're being fed, a bit like when you're getting to breastfeed, you tell them that they're going to be fed, so you brush their lip against the nipple, and then they go and they open. You're going to do the same for breastfeeding. So when you do that, your baby knows they're going to be fed. So you brush down, waiting for the gape, and then you introduce the bottle as horizontally as you can. The reason for this is if this bottle were full of milk and I tipped it up, you'd see it go drip, 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 and the baby can't control the flow. And your baby's used to controlling the flow in the breast. If you bring it and have it there and make sure just the teat is full,
then the baby can control the flow, and it's much nicer for your baby. So this is relevant to anybody who's bottle feeding their baby, regardless of what's in it. So if you think about the fact you want them in nice and close and upright so you can make eye contact with them. Remember, we talk about this every week. Every time you interact with your baby, you look at your baby, you stroke them, you touch them, you sing to them, you chat to them, you feed them. You are boosting oxytocin. They're releasing oxytocin. Oxytocin goes into their brain. It's the brain's fertilizer. You're growing a happy baby that will be a happy toddler, happy child, happy adult. It's all for their future health as well. So they feel secure and attached. So that's why they want to be in nice and close and not miles away from you. So in close, brush for the gape, watch them open their mouth and introduce the bottle into the top of the mouth, and then it will stay in the mouth and you'll have this bit in. See how you get on with that. So as I say, you might find that she's a little reluctant to take it from you. It may be worthwhile your partner doing it. And it might be worthwhile trying after a feed or part way through a feed when she's not desperate, because she knows where she gets her milk from normally. She's clever and she will be going, well, this isn't where milk comes from. So try to make it a really nice experience. Try to keep her happy. If she starts to get upset, stop, change, come back to it. And I would recommend that, just picking my laptop up, I would recommend that if they are struggling, that perhaps you're not there, because the first reaction from you will be, give her to me, I'll have her, because she'll know and you know that it works for you. Breastfeeding is really good for you too, but actually you're going to need her to take a bottle. So see how you get on. Have a look at our videos. It's all on there as well. It's on, if you go on to do a Google search, do OUH as in Oxford University Hospitals, then do maternity and feeding. You just can do it all along one search. I regularly do it. And you just put that search in, it will come up with our web page, and then if you go down you'll find the maternity playlist, and that's the link to all our videos on Facebook. And there's one about responsive bottle feeding. I think it's bottle feeding and other alternative feeding methods. So you can have a look at that. There's finger feeding there too. Maybe that's something you might find easier, might work, but have a look, and if that is something you want to try, give us a shout and see how you get on. So I hope that's helped. I hope that's given you some suggestions. That was for Olivia. And if I have missed any of your question, because I can see on the in front of me up there that it said there's a bit more, but on my laptop I can't see anything else. So good luck, Olivia, and I hope you enjoy being back at work. Sometimes it's rather nice to go and be, have that other hat on. Charlotte said, how do I send it to you? Email. You can email us a picture, Charlotte. We'd love one. So our email address is infantfeeding.team@ouh.nhs.uk. So if you go, you could look on our webpage and it's there too. So that was infantfeeding.team@ouh.nhs.uk. And that's the email address for any of you to contact us if you've got any questions that don't need an instant answer. Having said that, if you are phoning us, I'm really sorry. We have been really busy. I mentioned at the beginning that we've had a real baby boom. I've worked the last 2 days, Wednesday and Tuesday I've been here, the only member of the infant feeding team in, and I've quite literally not been at the desk between 9 and about 7. So if you've called in those days, we've got a log of your call, and I'm really sorry if we haven't phoned you back, but we will do. Hopefully I'm going to get back to people after this session and do all the calls, but we have been very, very busy. But you can either email us or call us, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. So do send us a picture of your daughter, Charlotte. We look forward to seeing her. Jessica said, Alex, my little boy is now almost 6 months. Feeding has become a bit stressful in the day. He's distracted, unlatches every couple of seconds. I can't talk. He now only feeds for 2 to 3 minutes and is done. In the night he wakes a lot and does much longer feeds. Worried he's getting most of his nutrition at night. Is this normal, or should I be doing something to help daytime feeds? Thanks. Do we hear this so often. They get really interested in the world around them, and I know what you mean. You can't talk. The minute you talk, they're off and they're looking around. What are you talking? Who are you talking to? Or the television's on. Or if you've got other children, they walk past and they start rubbernecking. It is a phase. It does pass. It will get easier, but they do tend to take most of their nutrition at night when they're at this stage, and eventually they realise that actually, well, feeding's rather lovely and I'll pay attention to it. But it's a bit of a developmental stage. So it's just moving on to that one. if you can cope with the nights, that's great. You know, and trying to make sure your babies get the food they need at that point in time. The other thing is maybe just taking yourself away when they are feeding. You know, sometimes we talk about going into a darkened room because they're so inquisitive about what's going on. They come on, off, and so maybe just going into another room for a few feeds and just see how that goes. But it is very, very normal, Jessica. We hear about it quite often, and babies it does pass, it does get better. They realise that actually, no, I do want to feed, and they concentrate on the job. But you might need to have a few feeds in a separate room just for the moment. Not ideal if you've got other children, I totally understand. But don't worry, your baby will take what they need. We often talk about how a baby needs an amount of milk in a 24-hour period. This is always me, 24 hours, I always talk about the circle, in a 24-hour period. And if they're not going to get it in the day because they're distracted or something's happening, or you know there's gaps between feeds, they'll take it at night. And if you can go with it, your baby will be getting all the nutrition they need. And hopefully this will pass soon and they'll stop being quite so interested in the world around them. But I think if you can look at it as a positive, it's just showing how your baby's becoming really aware of their surroundings, aware of people around them, and just, you know, rather than just being you and your baby, now it's you and they're aware of where they sit in the world, which is lovely because that is the next stage of their development. So Jessica, I really feel for you, and I hope it gets better soon. Think maybe, you know, if you can extricate yourself from a noisy environment, and make sure you're getting enough feed in at night. So, you know, lots of, you know, you could do a dream feed as they're going to bed if you're not doing that already. Just pick them up and give them a feed then. That'll get another few more calories in them. But see how it goes. And all the best with it. But well done for getting to 6 months, that's fantastic. I presume you can start thinking about some complementary foods now. I've said it a few times before, the wonderful First Steps Nutrition is a brilliant website. It has lots of information for those mothers that are looking into giving formula milks. So there's a whole section on there, not just for mothers but for health professionals as well, if any health professionals or budding health professionals are listening. But it also has a section on complementary foods, as in foods that you give after 6 months. So when you're moving on to those solid foods, there's a whole section on there. And she, the wonderful Helen Crawley, you know, takes some of the companies to task about some of the foods that you might buy over the counter. But she also makes lots of suggestions about foods that you could be doing at home. And I've listened to her talk at quite a few conferences. She's absolutely inspirational. So have a look at First Steps Nutrition if you're thinking about going on to complementary foods now that your baby is 6 months. And there might be some nice inspiration then there for you. All the best with it. All right, Joanna has put in the next question. Joanna has a 7-week-old, a bit overwhelmed with her letdown and won't comfort feed in the evenings, just screams and gets really angry if I try to latch her. When I put a finger in her mouth, she instantly suckles and goes off to sleep. I'm not keen to give a dummy, so I've switched to nipple shields in the evening and overnight, following advice from a lactation consultant. I'm worried she won't be able to ever comfort feed without them. Will she adapt to my flow as she grows? Quite possibly. You know, babies, I've had 2 slightly older babies. Our babies that we see in clinic are under 6 weeks, but one was almost there and one was just a bit less. And both of them were struggling with the mother's flow and wanting to suck for the comfort side of it rather than just needing food. And one of the mothers was finding that if she put the baby back to the same breast, she didn't get overloaded. So that might be, you know, if you keep the baby at the same breast for a little bit if they're looking for it, rather than swapping them on when they're going to get another letdown. If your baby's coping with nipple shields, we don't demonise nipple shields as a team. We see them as a very useful tool at times. We don't advocate their use. I'll say this very clearly. We do not advocate their use in the first few days after birth. When the milk supply is being established, we would highly recommend that they're not used when you are trying to get your milk supply going. The reason for that is that they are a piece of plastic between mother and baby, and they do impact on the mother's ability to stimulate have her milk supply stimulated. But they do have a place, and if they're working for you in this instance, then maybe that's a good solution for you. We also use them as a team for those babies that maybe have had a lot of bottles and they go to the breast and they literally do not know what to do. And we see them and you put them to the breast and they literally go, and they have no idea what they're meant to be doing. You pop a shield on that breast and the baby goes, okay, on they go. And for the mothers that have been doing pumping and feeding with the bottle, this can be the most amazing let out of, allowing them to step away from pumping. So if the shielders are working for you, then maybe that might be a way to keep going. I've not heard about them being used for this, but I'm always happy to learn, and I learn from the mothers that I meet every day and other colleagues, other lactation consultants as well. So that's a really interesting thing to hear. So I've learned something from you. Will she learn to cope with your flow? I would say yes. This is what I said to these 2 mothers in clinic today. Babies grow fast. The anatomy of the mouth changes so radically in the first 2 years of life. If you think about a baby when they're first born, even if they had the mental capacity to be able to speak, they couldn't speak because they have not got the anatomy to speak. If you look at diagrams of how the anatomy of the jaw and the mouth change in the first 2 years of life, it's a phenomenal change and they grow very rapidly. So we sometimes have mothers who come to us, we can't solve their problems when it comes to positioning and feeding. Positioning attachment is just fabulous. We can't see anything we can improve on, but it's still not right. Sometimes the only thing we can say is give it time. Your baby will grow, their mouth will grow rapidly. So I would say the same with your baby. They will grow and they will cope with it much more easily as they get a bit older. So hopefully this is just a bit like we're talking about that baby with the rubbernecking. It's a phase, it will pass, it will get better. And it's amazing what time will do with feeding. And suddenly you'll go, oh, it does not do that anymore. It's so much better. So thank you, Joanna, for that question, because I've learned something now and I can understand the logic of using a shield in that case, but hopefully, yes, it will get better. Olivia's come back, said, oh my God, they're so helpful, thank you so much. Didn't know about the 3 pumping sessions. Yes, she's used to a bottle. She was jaundiced and I had to express to top her up between the feeds when she lost weight. We've been trying to give her 1 small bottle in the evening. Since then, as I'm aware, I'd go back to work at some point. Whole question answered and great tips, thanks so much. Olivia, thank you very much for the feedback. And it's all, I didn't know about the bottle that you were giving a bottle, but that responsive bottle feeding just makes it so much better for baby and for you because it reinforces everything they need to be doing for breastfeeding. But well done that you've kept up with that bottle, and it is an issue. We do have many mums, and I can think of mums over my career who have really, really struggled. Baby's been having a bottle, not gone to the breast. It's clicked, could be 6-7 weeks down the line, the baby's clicked, they've worked it out, they're on the breast, mother needs to go back to work at 5 or 6 months and the baby won't go back to a bottle. And it's like, I can't believe it. So I think keeping your 1 bottle a day going is quite a good idea, and if you know you're going back to work. If you're not going back to work, there is no need. If you get to 6 months, you can go straight onto a cup. You don't need to give a bottle. So, from that point of view, many mothers can choose never to give a bottle and they go straight from breast to a cup, and that works just fine for them. So it's all horses for courses, depending on what's happening. Thank you for that, Olivia. I really enjoyed that feedback. Jessica's come back. Thanks, Alex. I'll check out the First Steps Nutrition as we're about to start complimentary foods. You can feedback and tell us what you think of it, because I think it's a great website and she's totally inspirational. It's a charity, amazingly work these people do, and she's absolutely fantastic at taking formula companies and complimentary food companies to task if she feels that they're not being crystal clear about their products. There was an issue a few years ago when Aptamil changed the constituents of their milk, and she took Aptamil to task and got them to reveal what they were up to. So anyway, Emma said her 10-month-old baby is still breastfeeding but also having some solids now. I've had no luck pumping, but he's not interested at all in his prescription formula, his cow's milk protein allergy. Would you advise a cup rather than a bottle? Oh, I just mentioned that at this point. And any tips for getting him to drink the formula? I'm a little worried about him starting nursery next month, though they're said babies usually get on okay as it's out of sight and out of mind. Right, well, I've just mentioned going straight onto a cup. 10 months, definitely, go straight to a cup. And I have to say I agree with the nursery. It's amazing, and that's a bit like I was saying earlier to that, and with regard to giving a bottle. If you're not there then actually it can be a big difference. And what you might find, even if they have a bit of a strike, and I don't know how long you're going to be at work, but actually they'll just make up for it. And often mums who go back to work do find the baby feeds a lot overnight. That baby's not just doing it for food, they're just reconnecting. They go, you're my mum, and I haven't seen you all day, and I just need to know you're here, and just check in and know that you're right next to me. And that's really normal baby behaviour. So don't worry, I think they're right at nursery. They've obviously got good experience of this, and it really does often work that the minute you're not there, they will cope with it. They will take it. Try the cup out before they start at nursery. Start letting your baby try a cup and see how they get on. Most babies will take what they're given. I know that the cow's milk protein, the formulas that are made for babies with cow's milk protein allergy tend to be things like amino acid formulas, and they do have an unusual smell. I think it's a case of just keep trying and see how you get on. As long as your baby's getting enough, I mentioned already, and here I go again, in the 24 hours, as long as your baby's getting enough in that 24 hours, whether it be from when you get home till you go to work, then that's fine, so as long as your baby stays hydrated, you could maybe even, if you're getting enough milk into your baby at 10 months, maybe they could be having a little bit of water maybe. Ideally it is milk, but if they're not taking it, that they take most of their hydration from you. So I think see how you get on. It sounds like it's a very sensible nursery, because I tend to agree with them. That often happens. You just might find, Emma, that you're doing quite a lot of feeding when your baby's with you, and it's, I say, not just because they love the food. They're just checking in. They want to know you're there. So Emma, all the best going back to work, and just, I think, try a cup and just keep trying, in the lead up to going back to work. I'd be a crack on. Joanna has said, thanks, I've tried putting back to the same breast, but she still just slips off after a short time. I was so angry she won't latch on at all. She had a tongue tie, but this has been cut. Joanna, it's really interesting, because I had a mum in clinic today, and her baby, when she goes to the second breast, does it exactly the same, complains bitterly. And it is a case of, I think sometimes they want to go on the breast, but they don't want the food. They just want to be there. They'd be happy with a little bit. So I think, that the suggestion of trying that shield, I'm sure that was you, wasn't it? You said about the shield. Yes, it was you. I think trying the shield is may work well, and I'd be really interested to hear how you get on. Perhaps you can feed that back to us, because that's, as I say, we learn something all the time from colleagues and mums, and if that works, that's something we can put up our sleeve and we can use in the future for mums. So that'd be great to keep us informed. Oh, Carolina's come on. Hello again. We've had quite a few questions from you over the months. Jonathan is now 6 months and she's still breastfeeding. Yes. I'm planning to start to give him some solids, but he doesn't sit unsupported yet. He'll sit on the sofa when he has a back support. How long can I wait before I should give him solid foods? I'd like to do baby-led weaning, and I'd heard that some babies are not ready for solids even at 8 months. I'm a bit concerned that if I start too late, he'll then have problems with getting enough nutrition when he's 1. Well, remember, your food, your milk, still giving him as much, huge amounts of nutrition, and the 6 months is just a guide. And we know that you can carry on doing lots of breastfeeding. We've had many babies who are still predominantly getting their nutrition from breast milk right up through into the first year. So I wouldn't worry too much. As long as breastfeeding is going well, your baby's getting the nutrition they need, and they will get there. And it might be 8 months, but that isn't a terrible thing. And once they're sitting, able to sit, and you can start putting things in front of them, and they can pick them up, then they're ready. But I wouldn't worry, Carolina. I think you've done a great job to grow your baby to 6 months, and you'll be able to keep growing your baby for a bit longer. And and I would have thought that by the time they've got to 1, they'll have got it. And it's interesting because in the days when Naomi and I had our babies, we were being told to wean our babies at 3 months. I mean, it was so ridiculously early. And the babies you can imagine, they couldn't sit. They had no motor skills to take the food to the back of their mouth. So invariably, all you did was put the food in, they spat it out, because they didn't have the capacity to take it back. And so you'd go in, out, in, out, in, out, and you were displacing milk. So it was a very ridiculous, mad thing. And it was thought that if you didn't do it, you were going to cause problems. And I even remember my mother telling me, and she worked with children with special needs, and she said to me at the time, no, you need to do it because of talking. But actually now we know that's not the case. And leaving it later, their skills are so much better. And not only can they transfer the food to the back of the mouth, this goes with what I was saying earlier on about the anatomy of the mouth changes so much in the first couple of years, that the babies then have the ability to take the food from the front to the back of their mouths, and that they are able to hold it and lift it to their mouths. And these are signs that they're ready to go. And in the past, we weren't doing these wonderful, baby-led weaning, carrot sticks and things like that. It was all pureed foods. And, so actually what we see now is babies move at a much quicker pace when they start onto weaning foods, onto solid foods, complementary foods, when they're ready, than when we were trying to force feed them at a younger age. So if your baby's not ready, don't worry. Your baby's getting all the nutrition they need from you, and it's, as we always say, food before one is just for fun. So when your baby gets it, they'll really get it and they'll be off. So keep going with what you're doing. You're doing a great job. 6 months of breastfeeding already is fantastic, and your baby's still going to get everything they need from you for the moment. And when they're ready, off you go, and you'll be rapidly going through the stages fantastically. I hope that's reassuring to you. Good luck with it. Jade has said, are there any tips to encourage more feeding in the day and fewer feeds through the night? Oh, I know, it's difficult, isn't it? I don't know how old your baby is, Jade. It's very much a developmental thing again. Babies tend to feed most at night in the first few weeks, really up to about the first 6 weeks. You'll find babies do quite a lot of feeding. First 2 weeks predominantly. I always laugh that they should be paying me to work the nights here, because I know the babies are often awake most of the night, and I come in the morning and the babies are asleep. I don't think they want to pay me the extra though. So it is very, very common in the first few weeks that a baby will predominantly feed at night. My original mentor when I trained as a midwife, she's another lactation consultant as well, very good friend. She runs this Abingdon Baby Cafe. She always used to say about, in our caveman days, babies were safe when in the night they were in close to mum, and they would feed then, and in the day when mums were out foraging, they didn't want the babies awake and crying. So from that point of view, you can see that there might be an evolutionary thing about it, and it is really quite common. The other thing you might bear in mind is during the day when you were pregnant, you were moving around, and the baby was rocked to sleep, and at night you were lying, and then they maybe be more active. So there's all sorts of things that might contribute to why babies awake more at night than in the day. It's really common. What we find is as the weeks progress and you get nearer 6 weeks, that babies sleep longer. They have the capacity to sleep longer, and you'll start seeing a slight change of they realise the difference between night and day, and they start going a little bit longer at night, and you get more feeds in the day. What you can do is you can try and rouse your baby and try and get a bit more food in them. That doesn't quite fit the responsive feeding, but you can try a bottle. You can try picking your baby up, giving them a cuddle, see if they rouse for a feed a bit sooner, and see how you get on. Dream feeds. If your baby's asleep as you're going, as you think you're going to bed, if there's a gap, try picking them up, give them a feed, and that might mean you're not going to be woken in an hour or two. A few suggestions for you there, but I think you're with the majority. Most moms will tell you, why do they feed at night, all night, and then they're awake all day? And anyone who hasn't had a baby, the second night is notorious. Any of you, the Immies, the Jessicas, the Charlottes, will all tell you the second night is the night where you've had an angel all day because they've been gorgeous in your arms, gorgeous, you're getting such a good baby, and then suddenly they grow horns. The night comes and they're little devils because they're awake all night. The second night is probably one of the most difficult you'll have. It is normal for your baby to be awake all night on the second night. They're chasing milk, they're pushing your milk supply. It is a normal physiological thing. Go with it as best you can. Now we've got visiting again. If you're there and it's day one and you've had your baby, you had your baby yesterday and you got a little bit of sleep on the first night because your baby slept, which they often will, and you're coming into the second night, hand your baby to your partner and go say, I'm going to close my eyes for 2 hours and get some sleep, because you will be up through the night with your baby, and that is normal. Go with it. Don't feel that your baby's so hungry you need to give them anything else. It is completely normal that they feed and feed and feed and feed on the second night. You're going to be shattered. That's why you need to try and get some sleep in the day, make the most of anyone who's visiting you to do that. And if you're home, again, partner, cuddle the baby, you get some sleep in the afternoon so that you're ready for that night. And try and go with it. This is often when we find our mums crack, they end up giving a bottle of formula, and then we're on the back foot trying to get milk supply going. Baby's had some food, then it's heavier in their tummy, they're not looking for food so much, and the mums are trying to play catch up. So as much as you can, try not to give anything additional other than your milk on the second night, even if your baby's really unsettled, unless it's clinically indicated. So unless you have been told it is important to do so. If you've got an unsettled baby, that is not the reason to do it. So going back to your question, sorry Jade, as I say, it really depends on how old your baby is, but could try dream feeds, try offering more feeds in the day. And then you can, when we talk about responsive feeding, that's as much you offering a feed as you are responding to the baby. So we say to mums, you can offer a feed because you're feeling a bit low, because that will give you an oxytocin rush. You can offer a feed because you're feeling a bit full and you want the baby to do a good job. You can offer a feed because you just want an excuse to sit down and have a cuddle. But you can also offer a feed because you want to try and see if you can get a bit more in the day, so maybe you get slightly less feeds in the night. So it may be well worth a try. See if you can try and fit another feed or two in the day and see what happens. But if they're in the early days and the early weeks, you may not be terrifically successful, is all I'm saying. Good luck with it, Jade. Charlotte's come on again. We started Alicia on baby food at 4 months and she really enjoyed the food, but still have fun with getting her to eat normal food and not baby food. So that's quite early, Charlotte. So obviously the recommendation is normally 6 months. So just saying to anyone who's listening, we tend to say that we try and withhold offering anything other than your milk or formula milk up to 6 months, because that is the recommendation. It's thought that that the stomach, they just don't have the ability to digest the food, and what you then end up doing is displacing the milk, which is giving them the nutrition that they need. So ideally, if you can, hold off to their 6 months, because that's the recommendation from the WHO, from UNICEF Baby Friendly, and the Public Health England. So it is ideally. But well done to you, Charlotte, for her coping so well with it. That's brilliant. So Charlotte said, my baby's 5 weeks tomorrow, seems to have developed what I can only explain as a lazy latch, where she won't always open wide, and she's becoming increasingly fussy, particularly at night, where she lip smacks against the nipple and moves her head side to side. I've now developed mastitis, feeling quite poorly at the moment, but where am I going wrong? I've had latch checked on a few occasions, always been reassured she's got a good latch, but wondering if the mastitis is linked to her latch. I would say that more than likely it is, Sian, I'm afraid. Bear with me. I would say it more than likely is linked to it, because we know that if the baby's not effectively removing milk, you end up with a congested breast that then becomes mastitis. So I think that probably that is what's happening. So I know that you've had people looking, and when we have lots of people come to clinic and say I've had lots and lots of people look, there's usually some mood improvement that we can make. So your baby's now 5 weeks old. Are you allowing for the fact that she's now 5 weeks old? So thinking about where are you starting? So it's that whole thing about, regardless of how old your baby is, how big your baby is, that they start, I could try and do, I always find this difficult, nose to nipple, okay? So what happens sometimes is that, and I wish I had a small doll and a big doll because I could show it then. What happens is that initially when you first started feeding, your baby was here. So there was, because they're only little and they're here. And then when as the baby gets bigger, you're carrying on and they're still here. And actually what they should be is here. So that's the main thing that we find, is that mums are having that baby central to them, but actually they really need to be here, if you can see the difference. So thinking about starting nose opposite nipple, what we do not want is your baby coming on here. They want to be here. And the whole thing about that is getting that big mouthful. I've talked about it many a time, thinking about, there's the breast, here's the baby's mouth, they want to go on like that, okay? So they're going to hit with the chin and lower lip, and the upper lip is just going to skim the nipple. If they go on, because they're much more central here, then they're going to go on like this. And they don't get the mouthful they like, and they get very astute. They go, this isn't working, I don't want to be here, this isn't the mouthful I want. They need to be here. And that means that they actually open their mouth. So if you think about if I'm here and I want to get my thumb in my mouth, I've got to tip my head back and open my mouth wide. If it's here, I don't have to open my mouth wide. It's there. So make your baby reach for the breast. So starting nose opposite nipple, and they go, oh, but I do want to feed, so they have to go back and on. That makes all the difference, and that's one of the things that we often see with older babies who are getting a bit difficult to adapt, is that the mother's still putting them on straight, and actually they should be over here. So think about, am I starting nose to nipple? When that head tips back, is it upper lip to nipple, or have I got the nipple central in the mouth? In which case they can just nibble on and they don't do a good job, and then they go, but this isn't working, this isn't the mouthful I want, I can't milk the breast well this way. The reason that this is so important is that if the baby goes on well, they go chin and lower lip down here, upper lip skims the nipple, they take the breast right to the back of the mouth. I mean, anyone who's heard me talking will know that I talk about the soft palate here is like a cushion for your nipple, and this is the hard palate, this is the tongue. So they go on, the nipple sits against the soft palate, and the baby does this, and they have a really big mouthful of breast in their mouth. If it goes into the middle, it hits the tongue, and they get this, and they don't get rewarded with a good mouthful of breast, and they can't milk the breast. When we taught you to hand express, you would have been taught to have your hands back away from the base of the nipple, not here. You don't get anything here, and it's the same for the baby. So that would be my first suggestion. Check your starting nose to nipple. You're allowing your baby then to go back, and you're encouraging her to open her mouth. So you might brush her by moving her head, so you might just do this. So put the breast down. So you might just do this with her and encouraging her to open her mouth, and your breast stays still. That's the other thing. So often we see that the baby's all lined up and the breast gets moved. Believe that when your baby goes on, the chin and lower lip will hit, and you'll see, if you watch, the nipple dips, and it will dip just underneath the upper lip if you look. So it's having that belief. So just make sure you're nose to nipple when you start, and see how you get on. Let me see if I've answered all of your questions. Well, that was a really good one. So the other thing to say is that you talked about lazy latch, is that they've got that suck sensation back here. So they need to feel the breast back there so that they then start feeding. If it's here, they will suck, but maybe not so well. So you just make sure you're getting that really, really good mouthful. And I know that you've had it looked at. The other thing is, you said you've got mastitis at the moment. Get the milk moving. Get her on. If you don't feel any relief from her feeding, get hand expressing or use a pump. Keep the milk moving. 24 hours of self-care is what we would normally recommend. So you can take paracetamol if you're allowed to take ibuprofen, because obviously some people like asthmatics, sometimes they're contraindicated, but if you can take ibuprofen, it's a really, really good anti-inflammatory. So paracetamol and ibuprofen. Paracetamol you can take 4 times a day, and ibuprofen 3 times a day. So leapfrog them, and that will bring down the inflammation in your breast. It will make you feel better, and then get the milk moving, and that will really help. If, however, in 24 hours after the symptoms started and you've been doing all of this, feeding, pumping, good pain relief and ibuprofen, it's still not resolving, contact your GP and ask for a prescription. Usually what happens is that you don't even have to see the GP. Most GPs will take it from you that you've got mastitis and leave you a prescription to pick up from the chemist. So the reason that works really well is that antibiotics are a really, really good anti-inflammatory. So you haven't mentioned if your nipples are damaged, but most of the time, and this fits with what you're telling me, the symptoms of mastitis are as a result of milk in the wrong place in the breast. So if you imagine your piece of broccoli, which is how I often describe the breast, and imagine that all the juices have come out of all the little florets and the branches going off, and they're sitting in the tissue around. The body goes, oh, what's this? It's in the wrong place, and behaves as if you've got mastitis. So because it's saying to the body, this is a fluid that shouldn't be here, and the body sets up an inflammatory response, which is why you feel rubbish, because your body's putting up a response to the milk in the wrong place. Get the milk moving, get painkillers, anti-inflammatories, you should feel better. And if you don't, after 24 hours, antibiotics, and then it should sort it out. But the main thing is get that milk moving. Don't leave it in the breast. You might, if you're really congested, start with hand expressing, warm flannels, stand in the shower, get a bowl of water and lean over it, and then get that milk moving. Then get the pump on it as soon as you start to see milk coming, until you feel relief, and keep moving the milk till you feel relief. So you might need to be doing it fairly frequently. What we also find is women who have mastitis often find there's a real knock-on effect on their milk supply. Because the breast is so congested, the milk supply goes down afterwards. They have less milk in that breast than they did previously. So don't be frightened about the pumping. It's really important. You're not going to stimulate a terrible, really big supply. You're actually going to be making up for the possibility of you having less milk in that breast. So the key thing is milk removal, ibuprofen, paracetamol, 24 hours. And see how you get on. And I hope you feel better soon, because it's amazing how awful you can feel, even if it's what we call non-infective mastitis. If you're still struggling and you want to talk to someone, give us a shout. I'm here today, as is my colleague Eliza, and we've got people working tomorrow and Sunday. So no one working on Saturday, but do call and get in touch. Good luck with that, and I hope you feel better soon, Sean. It is not much fun. Emma's come back and said thank you. Laurie Betty's just put up saying just remember, food under 1 is just for fun, and she was sending that on to Carolina. So yes, exactly, reiterating what I said, that we're not worried about how much they're taking in under 1, and your baby will have got it by then. They'll be fine. Alexandra's come back replying to Sian, saying mine is 4 weeks today and does the same thing. Oh, all the best to you too then, Alexandra. Oh, I hope that's getting a bit better. I'm just having a look to see what happened there. Yeah, so again, same thing. All of that applies to you too, Alexandra. Just really make sure that you're getting that positioning attachment right. It's very easy. I always use this as an example. I've got 3 children of my own, and I fed mine, needless to say, that's why I'm here. When I got to my 3rd, I started training as a counsellor, I was an NCT breastfeeding counsellor, and my son was 1 when I started training, and I was still feeding him. And I went to my class, I went to start learning about how to support women, and I changed the way I fed him. So he was already 1, and I had fed 2 children before, and I still could improve my positioning and attachment. So there is always room to improve positioning and attachment, and a millimetre here or there will make a really big difference. So do keep attention, pay attention. I remember thinking I didn't think I could make things better, but yes, you can. So think about what you're doing. Nose to nipple, head back, upper lip to nipple on. And remember that you're always pushing from the shoulders, from here, not here. We want babies to come on like this. We do not want babies to come on like this. If I give you a drink of water and ask you to put your chin down, you cannot drink it. So your baby wants to come on in this position. If I give you a drink of water, you tip your head back. That's what we need to do. Let's have our babies in that position. All the best with that, you two. I hope things get better. Hello, Leanne. She's put a question up. It's so nice to see all our regulars on here, keeping me company without Naomi. Hi Alex, yesterday I had a small painful lump in my breast. I'm quite sure it's a clogged duct. I applied warm compresses and massaged it. Managed to hand express, which I think cleared it. Still painful today, so I think it's a bit bruised from all the massage. Massage rather than still clogged. I also tried putting Lyra's chin on the lump to encourage her to feed from that duct. Is there anything else I can do to clear it, stop it happening? As a side note, when I express, I'm now getting around 3 ounces. I'll be forever grateful to you for your advice in the early days that we're still breastfeeding at 18 weeks and absolutely loving it. Leanne, you're another one that I can say it's not easy, but it's worth it. My word, we spent plenty of time together up on level 5, and I'm just so pleased to hear that you're still going and you're getting more and more milk. That is just wonderful. So nice to hear. You've done all the right things. You've done exactly what we'd be suggesting. Just with regard to the massage, and I meant, I was talking to, we were just saying about having those flu-like symptoms and everything with Sian's talking about mastitis. Don't be too harsh on yourself, because actually you can bruise yourselves. Be gentle. If you found a lump, I would suggest you doing something like just gentle, round and round and round on it. gentle movements. If you're hard on it, you will bruise. You also displace the milk further. So when we talk to you about massaging, be kind, be nice. Use warmth. Warm compressors are great. You can use a warm flannel. As I said, you can have a bowl of water and lean into it. Get in the shower and then try afterwards. So things like that will all help. It sounds like you've done an amazing job there, Leanne, to getting it moving. That's fantastic. It sounds like you've done everything you needed to do, and hopefully the bruising will go soon. And getting Lyra's chin on there is a great idea too. You know, I had mum in clinic this morning. She's a bit sore on one side, so we tried a different position. So, you know, your breasts are round. The baby can feed anywhere. I know I've done it on here before. If you think about your breasts being round, your baby could be anywhere. They don't have to be in cross cradle. And we have gorgeous pictures in clinic of some fabulous mummies. We've got one with twins, and she's got one baby down here and one baby up here, and we've got another picture of a baby much bigger than this one. Mum's lying in bed and the baby's literally, anyone's been to clinic will have seen it, the baby's literally wrapped round her, feeding over her. So the baby's body's like this, feeding up like that. So yes, get the chin on that area. That will help it. So I always say to mums, the chin is doing a lot of work, because they're in and they're doing this and they're massaging the breast. So that's a brilliant thing to do. So Leanne, I hope you feel better soon. And that's a really good thing to do. Moving on, Kimberly, her baby's 7 weeks old and is a clicky eater. Breastfed. Health visitor suggests a small tongue tie. She's gaining weight, but I'm constantly breastfeeding. I've had mixed signals from midwives in the past whether she is or she's not, which is a bit stressful. If she does have a tongue tie, will it hurt her getting the procedure? Is she still able to get it done at 7 weeks? Yes, you can still have it done, Kimberly, at 7 weeks. However, you would need to go through your health visitors team now, I'm afraid. We see babies of 6 weeks and under. We have a bit of a cut-off so that it's clear differentiation between who looks after who, so we don't get too muddled. So we have an agreement with the health visiting team that they look after babies of 6 weeks and older, and we have the babies 6 weeks and younger. So ideally someone does an oral assessment on your baby, and an oral assessment is not just looking. You know, anyone who's met me, I've done 4 oral assessments this morning in clinic, will know that we don't just look. We're looking at, is your baby symmetrical? What does your baby do with their tongue? Can they move it well? What's the mobility like? What's the palate like? And then what's under the tongue, and do we think what's under the tongue is impacting on the baby's ability to feed? So from that point of view, it's way more than what you can see. And you can say a small tongue tie, but actually some of the posterior ones at the back can be way more inhibiting for feeding than ones that are blatantly obvious and sitting at the front. I've seen a baby this week with a tongue tie that was so clear, it was right at the tongue. If you imagine that being the tongue and that being the floor of the mouth, it was sitting right back to here, so it was tied like that. So what we would call 90%, not quite to the tip, but almost. But this baby was transferring milk beautifully. Mother was not sore, and they decided that they're not going to do anything about it. The likelihood is because it's a very thin frenulum, because that's what it's called, that little line under the tongue. It's a very thin frenulum. The likelihood is that once that baby goes on to solid foods, goes on to eating foods and has a spoon or toy, they may actually just separate it themselves, and it will just come apart because it's a tiny piece of skin and probably won't hurt them, or very little. With your baby, do you ask, does it hurt? I think it is, the babies are held quite tight when it's done, so they don't like that for a start. I think it is quite sore for a while, because they end up with where it's cut. If you imagine it's cut in like this with a pair of scissors, because it's here and it's cut like that, they end up with a diamond that's white. So if you've ever had a mouth ulcer, you know those little white patches, it looks a bit like that, except it's diamond, a white diamond under the tongue where it's been cut. So I won't say it's not painful, but it's a very quick procedure, and the first thing that happens after that is the baby's handed over for a feed, which is the best pain relief the baby can have. And also, once the baby's feeding, they're putting pressure on the floor of the mouth, and in those rare occasions when it does bleed, because it does bleed on occasions, that will stem the flow of bleeding. But it's not often that it bleeds much. The choice is open to you. Are obviously go and have a chat with your health visitors and say to them, you know, you've told me that it's possible my baby's got tongue tie. Please, can I have an oral assessment? So I know the health visitors are stretched, as are we, but you need to be seen by someone in their enhanced breastfeeding team. So the health visitors have an enhanced breastfeeding team. I know it's a bit depleted at the moment and they're doing the best they can, but it would be ideal if you saw one of them to do an oral assessment and decide whether you need to be referred. If you're referred, you'll be referred into ENT, so ear, nose and throat, because they hold the remit in this trust to do the NHS tongue tie frenulotomies, it's called, and that's done here in a clinic. I know that the lead time at the moment is about 4 weeks, with the summer pressures on at the moment, so it's quite possible that even if you got referred now that you may not be seen for a number of weeks. So I would get in touch with them. Some people choose to use one of the independent practitioners, and there are some out there. Maybe you could have a chat with friends, see if anyone else has had a tongue tie cut and see if they recommend anyone. But there are some people out there who do it as an independent, if you're prepared to pay for it, independent option. And some people choose to do that because they can be seen a bit quicker. So those are the options open to you. Say yes, it can be done at 7 weeks. It's only when they get much older that it has to be done with an anaesthetic, but at this stage it's not done under anaesthetic. Hope that's all right, Kimberly, and I'm sorry we can't help book you in on that one. So Hannah has come on responding to Sean, saying their babies both had latch issues. They found out Eloise had a small tongue tie which caused her not to latch well. Lizzie was fine most of the time but always seemed to lip smack, causing pain and also mastitis. I had to give up because I ended up in hospital with sepsis. Anyway, hope you get the help you need. Have you tried the football hold? Good suggestion. Hold your arm under your arm latch. Fed Eloise this way a lot, helped me when I was sore and she seemed to latch better. The underarm hold really is good for some women. Different breast types suit different feeding positions. Some women find an upright position where the baby's sitting across their legs, absolutely brilliant for them. A mother whose breasts maybe point slightly more down wouldn't find that so handy. A mother whose breasts point down and out might find underarm really useful. But thank you for your contribution there, talking about what you've done. That's really helpful. I think underarm is a very good suggestion. And talking about what we said about getting that chin in, make sure the chin's in against the area that's affected, and that will help too. Charlotte's come on again. Before you have your babies, so you get plenty of sleep. Make sure you get plenty of sleep. Oh, isn't she lovely? She's looking after all of you antenates. Make sure you get plenty of sleep, because when your baby comes along you don't get much sleep at all, and even when they're teething. So that's Charlotte giving some advice to all you mothers who haven't as yet, or future mothers who haven't as yet had your babies. Thank you for that, Charlotte. Sian has come on saying, suggesting that she's saying she tried the rugby hold last night through gritted teeth and lots of tears on the sore side. Midwife had said no tongue tie, she was latching well, but I'm not so convinced. I think it's well worth going and getting it checked then. Go and have it checked. And I don't know who you saw. And it's, as I say, you can't tell by what you see. It's got to be someone doing a full oral assessment. They've got to see, can this baby move their tongue? Have they got full tongue mobility? Can they cut? And anyone who's been into clinic with us or with my colleagues will know that we don't just look, we do a full oral assessment. So try and get someone to do that for you, and then go from there, because it may possibly be that. Good luck with that. Oh, I've gone the wrong way. I'm going to go back down again. Emma has said, just want to say thank you for the suggestion of the nipple tilt to help us get a deeper latch with my daughter's high palate 2 weeks ago. It has been so helpful. Feeds are quicker and more comfortable. Emma, I'm really delighted it's working. We use that a lot. I was using it today in clinic. We have a lot of little tricks up our sleeve, things that we've learned over the years. And now I've learned about shields from mums who've got a bit too much milk for their babies. So we're all learning, and I'm really glad it worked. Thanks for the feedback on that. Sian has said, thank you very much. I'll work on the nose to nipple and positioning. I've struggled with pain feeding since the start this time, hence asking various midwives to check the latch. She's put, I've got a prescription to collect later. It's quite feverish, etc. GP said not to feed from the source. Said no, please keep feeding. Please keep feeding. Still latching her though in the hope that she can help clear it. Thanks for your help, and I will see how we get on over the next couple of days. Please don't stop feeding. It's probably the worst thing you can be doing. It will get worse if you stop feeding. If you can get her on well, that would be absolutely brilliant. If you really can't get her on well, then you are going to concentrate on pumping. And the milk is fine. What happens when you have mastitis is it comes a little bit more salty, but it's still fine. There's nothing wrong with your milk at all, and it isn't infected, so there's no reason not to give your milk. So keep going and work on the positioning and attachment. All the best, Sian. I hope you feel better soon. It is rubbish. And Jess has said she's messaged you, Sian, too. Leanne's come on and said thank you, and Rachel Smith says so Rachel also has had a lump and read the vibration of an electric toothbrush can help. I've heard that too. I tried with the muscle sports massage vibration thing I have, and it worked along with hand massage, warm compress and putting his chin where the lump is. Great suggestion. That's a really good idea. So just something to get it moving. And Kimberly's come back and said thank you. Wow, that's been a fantastic bevy of questions. Thank you very much for keeping me entertained and busy for the over an hour. It's me worrying that I didn't have Naomi here. So Charlotte's popped another one up. She says all new mums and second or third time mums all need to support each other all we can, and to build all our confidence up and keep listening to the infant feeding team to keep learning new things, because I've learnt a lot through all 3 lockdowns. Thank you, Charlotte, and we've loved having you there. I think you're our #1 supporter. So, yes, you've been on almost every single one, even when you were on holiday in Devon with your mum. So thank you to all. I hope things get better for Sian with the mastitis, and yeah, I hope things get better for you all. Leanne, I hope your lump clears up nicely. Keep in touch. Normal week next week should be me and Naomi, double act as usual. So should be 2 of us at least. It's not just one voice for the hour. You know where we are. If you need us with the infant feeding team, you can contact us by phone or by email. We will do our best to get back to you as quickly as you can. I'm very aware that some people phoned us yesterday and I haven't as yet called back because we have been very, very busy. We will get back to you, I promise. So if you have got questions or you're looking for appointments, do ring, leave us a message, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Have a fabulous week. I hope the weather improves. I'm sitting here on level 7 looking out at grey skies, such a different temperature to a couple of weeks ago, and I hope you get some sunshine to go out and enjoy it. Thank you all, one and all, and I hope feeding goes well for you. Bye.